Three sides to every tale we tell. The truth is here, it's ringing bells.
All right, listeners, ready to conquer. Today, we're going to dive deep into the 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene.
Ah, yes, this one.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating look at how military strategy can be applied to everyday life.
So it's about taking those battle-tested tactics from history and like using them to win at work or relationships or even just like getting your point across.
Exactly. It's like having a secret playbook for navigating all those tricky situations.
Okay, I love that analogy, a secret playbook.
Yeah.
Now, Greene talks a lot about the importance of thinking strategically. Not just tactically.
Right.
I'll admit, sometimes I get lost in the weeds,
Yeah.
like just reacting to things instead of thinking about the bigger picture.
I think we all do that sometimes. But Greene
Yeah.
really emphasizes the need to elevate our thinking,
Right.
to see beyond those immediate battles.
So how do we actually do that? How do we shift our mindset to become more strategic?
Well, think of it this way.
Okay.
Tactics are the individual moves you make, right?
Yeah.
But strategy is the overall game plan.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Like, let's say you're aiming for a promotion at work. A tactical move might be staying late to finish a project.
Okay.
But a strategic move would be building relationships with key decision makers,
I see.
showcasing your leadership skills, thinking long term.
So it's about playing the long game, not just winning small battles.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, that's helpful.
And another key principle Greene emphasizes is self-reliance.
Ooh, interesting.
He argues that ultimately you are responsible for your own defense,
Even among friends.
even among friends.
Wow, okay, that's a little intense.
It is.
So we can't just rely on others to protect us or fight our battles for us.
Right. You need to develop your own strengths, your own resources, so you can navigate whatever challenges come your way.
Okay, so be prepared, be proactive.
Exactly. And Greene uses a great historical example to illustrate this point.
I love historical examples. Which one is it?
It's the story of Hernan Cortés.
Oh, the conquistador.
Yes, him.
Okay.
So Cortés suspected some of his own men were plotting against him.
Oh, wow. That's a scary situation.
It was. But instead of confronting them directly,
What did he do?
he pretended to go along with their schemes.
Whoa, playing it cool under pressure.
Exactly.
That's a bold move.
It is a bold move, and it paid off.
How so?
Well, by being observant and patient, Cortés was able to expose his enemies and protect himself.
So it's like he used their plot against them.
Exactly. It's a powerful example of how self-reliance can actually turn a dangerous situation to your advantage.
Okay, that's a great takeaway. I like that.
Yeah.
So before we get into specific strategies, I think we need to define what we mean by enemy.
Right. Good point.
Because obviously we're not talking about literal warfare here.
No, definitely not.
So in Greene's framework, who or what is the enemy?
Well, it can be anyone or anything that's subtly working against you.
Okay, that's pretty broad.
It could be a competitor at work,
Okay.
a negative habit that you're trying to break, or even like your own self-doubt.
Oh, yeah, that inner critic. So it's about recognizing those subtle forces that might be holding us back or trying to sabotage our success.
Right.
And once we identify those enemies, then we can start thinking strategically about how to overcome them.
Precisely. It's about becoming aware of the playing field and understanding the players.
Okay, I like that, understanding the players.
Right.
All right, so we've got the big picture and we've identified our enemies.
Yep.
Now let's dive into some of Greene's specific strategies.
Sounds good.
And let's start with one that really resonates with me,
Okay, which one?
the counterbalance strategy.
Ah, yes, this is a good one.
It's all about staying calm under pressure, right?
Exactly.
And Greene uses a really vivid example to illustrate this.
What is it?
It's the story of a tea master who's challenged to a duel.
To a duel.
By who?
By a samurai.
Oh, wow, that's intimidating.
Yeah, and the tea master isn't a swordsman, so he's basically facing certain death.
Talk about pressure.
Right. So what does he do?
Well, instead of panicking,
He uses the time before the duel to learn how to face death with dignity and grace.
wow, so he finds peace in the midst of chaos.
Precisely.
That's incredible.
It's about developing that mental muscle that allows you to stay detached.
Right.
to make rational decisions even when the stakes are high.
So it's like finding your center, that inner calm,
Yeah.
even when everything around you is going crazy.
Exactly. And think about how that applies to everyday life.
Yeah.
Like a stressful work presentation.
Oh, totally.
If you can maintain your composure, you'll project confidence.
Yeah.
You'll be able to think more clearly.
Absolutely. I can totally see how that applies.
Right.
Okay, let's move on to another strategy.
Okay.
This one sounds a little intense.
Which one?
The death ground strategy.
Ooh, yes, that's a powerful one.
Is it as dramatic as it sounds?
Well, it does draw on a very powerful image.
Okay.
The idea of facing our own mortality.
Whoa,
Greene uses the story of Fyodor Dostoevsky.
the writer.
Yes, the writer.
Okay.
He was sentenced to death by firing squad. Oh my gosh.
And he was actually led out to the execution ground.
No way.
Yes, before his sentence was commuted at the last minute.
Talk about a wake-up call. It was a wake-up call.
That must have been life-changing.
Absolutely. It made him realize the preciousness of time,
Right.
the importance of living each moment to the fullest.
So the death ground strategy isn't about literally facing death.
No,
It's more about embracing the urgency of life,
it is.
overcoming procrastination, and really focusing on what matters.
It's about asking yourself, if you only had a limited time left, what would you prioritize?
That's a powerful question.
It is. How would that change your actions today?
Right. You'd probably stop wasting time on things that don't matter.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a great perspective shift. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, how about one more strategy before we wrap up part one?
Sure.
Something that's particularly relevant to those tricky negotiations we all face in life.
Let's talk about the counterattack strategy.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, so Greene argues that initiating an attack can often put you at a disadvantage.
I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah, it's better to hold back,
Okay.
let your opponent make the first move, and then exploit their mistakes.
It's like that saying.
Yeah.
He who strikes first bleeds first.
Exactly. And think about it in the context of a salary negotiation.
Okay.
If you come in too aggressively, you might put the other person on the defensive.
Right. You don't want to start a fight.
Exactly. But if you listen carefully,
Yeah.
understand their needs, and then strategically counter their offer,
Okay.
you're more likely to get what you want.
So it's about patience observation
Right.
and choosing the right moment to make your move.
Exactly.
I like it. It's a bit like a game of chess.
It absolutely is.
You're thinking several moves ahead.
And that's what's so fascinating about these 33 strategies of war.
Yeah.
They're not just about winning battles.
Right.
They're about mastering the art of strategy in all aspects of life.
Okay. I love that. So we've set the stage for strategic thinking, redefined what enemy means,
Right.
and explored three powerful strategies.
Yes.
Counterbalance death ground and counterattack.
Powerful stuff.
Right. And we've seen how these principles can be applied to everything from handling pressure to negotiating a raise.
But we're just getting started.
That's right. We're just getting started, folks.
There's so much more to explore.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll unlock even more of Robert Greene's strategic wisdom.
We'll talk about choosing your battles wisely,
Ah, yes.
enveloping your enemy,
Ooh, getting intense.
and managing chaos like a true master strategist.
I can't wait until then. Keep thinking strategically, everybody. Welcome back to our deep dive into Robert Greene's The 33 Strategies of War.
Ready for more strategic insights.
Absolutely. Last time we talked about staying calm under pressure, embracing urgency, and that clever counterattack strategy.
Right.
But there's so much more to uncover.
There is.
So what other strategic gems does Greene have in store for us?
Well, let's talk about choosing our battles wisely.
Ooh, I like that.
Greene calls this the perfect economy strategy.
Okay, so it's about recognizing that not every fight is worth fighting.
Exactly. It's about conserving your energy and resources.
So not sweating the small stuff.
Right, and focusing on the battles that truly matter.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Greene uses a great historical example to illustrate this.
Oh, I love historical examples. Which one is it?
It's the story of Queen Elizabeth I and the Spanish Armada.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't she totally outnumbered?
She was, instead of engaging in a direct naval confrontation,
Which would have been super costly.
exactly, she opted for a more indirect approach.
So she played to her strength.
Right, she used England's smaller, faster ships to harass the Spanish galleons.
Ooh, guerrilla warfare at sea.
Exactly, she fought on her own terms
So-
and ultimately achieved victory.
Okay, so picking our battles is about understanding our limitations, conserving energy,
Yes.
and choosing when to engage and when to hold back. I like it. What about those situations where we need to go all in?
Then we're talking about the annihilation strategy.
Okay, that sounds intense.
It's about applying relentless pressure, closing off options.
So like a full court press.
Exactly. You're aiming for total victory.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Do you have a good historical example of this strategy in action?
One of the most striking examples comes from the Battle of Isandlwana in 1879.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one.
It was a battle between the British and the Zulus in South Africa.
Okay.
The Zulus, despite being vastly outnumbered, use a devastating envelopment strategy.
Envelopment, what does that mean?
It means they surrounded the British army,
Oh, wow.
cut off their escape routes, and inflicted a crushing defeat.
So they basically trapped them.
Exactly. It's a powerful reminder that even the most powerful opponent can be vulnerable to a well-executed encirclement.
Okay, that's a vivid image, but how do we apply this encirclement idea to, say, a business negotiation?
Well, it's about strategically limiting your opponent's options.
Okay, I see.
You might do this through a combination of persuasive arguments, well-timed concessions,
Right.
maybe even a bit of psychological pressure.
So you're not literally surrounding them, but you're creating a strategic environment that boxes them in.
Exactly. You're giving them fewer and fewer ways to say no.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, this next strategy seems almost counterintuitive.
Which one?
Controlled chaos.
Ah, yes. This is a fascinating one.
How can you control chaos?
That's the key. It's not about eliminating chaos altogether.
Okay,
It's about harnessing it.
interesting.
This strategy is about decentralizing power, giving your team or organization the flexibility to adapt to changing circumstances.
So it's about empowering people to make decisions on the fly.
Exactly. Greene uses the example of Napoleon's army,
Okay.
which was organized into independent corps that could operate and make decisions on their own.
So like a network of mini armies.
Exactly. They could react quickly to whatever the enemy threw at them.
Okay, so you're not trying to micromanage every detail. You're giving your team the freedom to adapt and respond.
Right. And this principle is incredibly relevant to modern organizations.
Yeah, I can see that, especially in fast-paced industries like tech.
Exactly. Those companies need teams that can operate independently, make decisions on the fly.
Right, because things change so quickly.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now let's talk about another strategy that emphasizes speed and adaptability.
Okay, which one are you thinking of?
The blitzkrieg strategy.
Ah, yes. The classic lightning strike.
So it's about speed and surprise.
It's about striking first with overwhelming force, disorienting your opponent, and seizing the initiative.
Okay, and Greene uses a military example to illustrate this one.
Right, does. He points to Erwin Rommel's desert warfare tactics in World War II.
Oh yeah, Rommel a Desert Fox.
Exactly. He was a master of using speed and maneuverability to overwhelm his opponents.
So it's not just about speed, it's about using that speed to create chaos and confusion.
Right, you're throwing your opponent off balance.
Got it. And this principle can be applied in so many contexts.
Absolutely. Think about a product launch. If you can hit the market quickly and decisively before your competitors have time to react, you gain a significant advantage.
So it's about seizing that first mover advantage.
Exactly.
Okay, I like it. Now, circling back to something we touched on earlier, Greene stresses the importance of knowing your enemy.
Right.
So how do we gather intel and use it to our advantage?
That's the intelligence strategy.
Okay.
It's about understanding your opponent's psychology, their weaknesses, their motivations.
So it's like doing your homework before a big meeting or negotiation.
Exactly. Greene uses the example of David and King Saul in the Bible.
Oh yeah, David and Goliath.
Well, actually, it's more about David and Saul.
Okay.
David was able to outmaneuver King Saul by using his friend Jonathan to gather intelligence on the king's plans and state of mind.
So he used his network to gain an advantage.
Exactly. It's a timeless example of using information as a weapon.
It's like that saying, knowledge is power.
Right. The more you know about your opponent, the better you can anticipate their moves and craft a winning strategy.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've covered a lot of ground here. Choosing battles, encirclement, controlled chaos, the blitzkrieg, and the power of intelligence.
It's a lot to process.
It is. Is there one more strategy we can squeeze in before we move on to part 3?
Let's talk about a strategy that's a bit more cunning, shall we?
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
It's called the one-upmanship strategy.
Okay, and what's that all about?
It's about getting under your rival's skin, subtly provoking them to overreact in ways that damage their reputation or position.
So it's like playing mind games with your opponent.
In a way, yes, it's about using their own weaknesses against them.
Okay, do you have a good historical example of this?
Greene uses the example of General Ulysses S. Grant and his rival general John McClernand during the Civil War.
Okay, and what did Grant do?
Grant understood McClellan's vanity and insecurity, and he used that knowledge to his advantage.
So he kind of baited him into making mistakes.
Exactly. He maneuvered McClellan into making rash decisions that ultimately led to his downfall.
Wow, that's pretty sneaky.
It's a bit Machiavellian.
Right, but effective.
Exactly. And sometimes you need to use those kinds of tactics to neutralize a threat.
Okay, that makes sense. This one feels like it requires a lot of finesse and emotional intelligence, though.
It absolutely does. You need to be able to read people, understand their motivations, and predict how they'll react to your moves.
Right, you don't want to accidentally provoke the wrong person.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I think our listeners are starting to build a pretty impressive strategic toolkit here.
I think so too.
We've covered a wide range of strategies, from choosing our battles wisely to playing psychological games with our rivals.
And we've seen how these principles can be applied to so many different areas of life.
Right, it's all about mastering the art of strategy in all aspects of life.
Exactly.
Welcome back, strategists. Ready for the final chapter of our deep dive into Robert Greene's The 33 Strategies of War.
Absolutely. Let's wrap things up with some more strategic brilliance from Greene.
Awesome. We've learned how to stay cool under fire, pick our battles, and even play some mind games with our opponents.
It's been quite the journey.
So what other strategic gems does Greene have for us?
Well, let's talk about a strategy that's all about subtle expansion. The fait accompli strategy.
Fait accompli sounds kind of fancy.
It's French.
Makes sense.
But it's really about the art of achieving your goals gradually.
So kind of flying under the radar.
Exactly. You're making your progress irreversible before anyone even realizes what you're up to.
Sneaky. I like it.
Greene uses the example of Charles de Gaulle.
Oh, the French general.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
He expanded free French territory in Africa during World War II.
And how did he use the fait accompli strategy?
He started small, securing seemingly unimportant regions, but he gradually built up a significant power base.
So he was playing the long game.
Exactly, and by the time his opponents realized what he was doing,
It was too late.
precisely, he'd already created a fait accompli, a done deal.
Clever, and how do we apply this to everyday life?
Well, think about career advancement. Instead of trying to make a sudden leap to the top,
Which could backfire.
you might create resentment or resistance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So instead, focus on gradually expanding your skills and influence.
Taking on more responsibility. Building relationships.
Exactly. You're making incremental progress, building momentum.
And before your rivals even realize it.
You're in a position of power.
Wow, I love that it's a strategy of subtle dominance.
It is. All right, now let's shift gears and talk about another fascinating strategy, the misperception strategy.
Misperception. So it's about creating illusions.
In a way, yes, it's about shaping perceptions and creating your desired reality.
Okay, this sounds a little bit like manipulation.
Not necessarily. It's more about understanding that people often see what they want to see.
True. We all have our biases.
Exactly. And Greene uses a really interesting historical example to illustrate this point.
Lay it on me. I'm all ears.
The Battle of Salamis in ancient Greece.
Okay, I vaguely remember that one from history class.
So the Greek general Themistocles was facing a much larger Persian fleet.
Not good odds.
No, they were in a very tough spot. So what Themistocles did was brilliant.
What did he do?
He sent a deceptive message to the Persian king, Xerxes.
A fake out.
Exactly. He suggested that the Greeks were planning to retreat.
So Xerxes thought he had them on the run.
Precisely, and eager for a quick victory, he fell for the ruse and ordered his fleet to attack.
Oh no, straight into a trap.
Yep, it was a masterful use of misdirection. Themistocles understood Xerxes' psychology.
His overconfidence.
Exactly, and he used that knowledge to create a false reality that served his strategic goals.
Wow, so it's about being a master of the narrative.
It is. All right, now let's talk about a strategy that often gets overlooked. The exit strategy.
The exit strategy, is this about knowing when to quit?
It absolutely is.
Interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that as a strategy.
But it's crucial. Greene argues that we need to be as strategic about our exits as we are about our entrances.
Makes sense.
It's about avoiding overextension, leaving options open, and ending on a high note.
So it's not about running away from a challenge.
No, it's about recognizing when it's time to move on to something better.
Got any good examples of this?
Greene uses the example of Lyndon B. Johnson's decision to resign from the vice presidency in 1960.
Interesting. Why did he do that?
He was facing a tough re-election battle in Texas, and he realized that stepping down from the national stage
Would improve his chances.
Exactly. It was a strategic retreat that ultimately served his larger ambitions.
Wow. So sometimes the best move is to step back, regroup, and then come back stronger.
Precisely. It's about having the wisdom to know when to hold them and when to fold them.
I like that. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into Robert Greene's The 33 Strategies of War.
We have.
We've learned how to stay calm, pick our battles, envelop our enemies, gather intelligence, play mind games, expand stealthily shaped perceptions, and even exit gracefully.
Quite the toolkit.
It is, and what's fascinating is how adaptable these strategies are.
They really are.
You can apply them to almost any situation.
Yeah.
It's like having a mental playbook for navigating life's challenges.
That's the power of Greene's work. He's taken these timeless principles of warfare
And made them relevant to our everyday lives. But it does make you think, are we using these strategies for good or for evil?
That's a great question.
Is it about becoming a master strategist or just a really cunning manipulator?
It's a fine line.
It is, and it's something for each of us to consider as we go out into the world armed with our newfound strategic knowledge.
Use it wisely.
Exactly. Well, that's it for our deep dive into the 33 Strategies of War.
I hope you've enjoyed it.
I have. Thanks for joining us. And remember, stay strategic out there.
Three sides to every tale we tell. The truth is here, it's ringing bells. Dive in deep, let's take a look in every twist and turn we took. For glory lies within the truth. We're chasing facts, it's our pursuit. Stories break and come alive, digging deeper to survive.